Welcome to Life Words Day by Day. We ended last week by saying that we are to focus on the promises of God and our calling as Christians and not the circumstances or the odds. And if we survey the Bible, we will see over and over where odds and circumstances were stacked against God's people, and that's just how God likes it. So think about Joseph and his brothers, overwhelmed by his brothers, but eventually Joseph will say, "You meant it for evil, but God meant it for good." Or think about Moses backed up against the Red Sea. Facing the Red Sea looked like nothing but death for Moses and the people of God. It was the end of the road, but the Lord intervened. He made a way, and the Red Sea delivered God's people and crushed God's enemy. Or think about Esther and Haman. Haman had devised a plan to have the Jews extinguished, and especially Mordecai, Esther's uncle, to hang him from gallows 50 cubits high. But when the news came to King Artaxerxes that a plan had been hatched to annihilate the Jews, of which his wife was one, the king's wrath turned against the man who had hatched the plan, Haman, and Haman was hung in the gallows that he had prepared for Mordecai. Or think about the story of Job and all of his ailments at Satan's request in order to separate Job from God. But all of those things actually bring Job closer to God. Or think about the 3 Hebrew boys in the fiery furnace, that they didn't end up dying in the furnace, but instead the servants of Nebuchadnezzar were burned and killed. Or think about Daniel in the lion's den. Daniel, because of his faithfulness to God, was set up and conspired against by jealous men and was eventually thrown into a den of lions. But no harm came to him. God had shut the lion's mouth. And when King Darius saw that Daniel's God had delivered Daniel, he brought Daniel out of the lion's den and tossed in Daniel's accusers and their families. And before they hit the bottom of the den, the lions overpowered them and broke all of their bones. We can talk about the New Testament and think about Paul in prison. You can put bars around his body, but not around his mouth. It was from prison that joy in the gospel spread all around and eventually delivered him to share the gospel in front of kings. Or think about John on the Isle of Patmos. You can seclude him to try and keep him from influencing others, but God will use that time of seclusion to deliver one of his most fascinating and comforting pieces of the Bible. This is the way of God. This is God's pattern, to have all the odds against him, all the circumstances against him and his people, so that when overwhelming victory comes, it can be said, "This is of God." As you pray today, please remember Pablo Muñez and his family, our Changemaker missionaries in Chile. And also remember the Ashaninka Life Word broadcast that's heard throughout Peru.